Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Vancouver. Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Brian David Marshall. John Stern versus Paul Rietzl. They're about one turn into it here, and Paul brings a real land to the table here.
Yeah, Paul has thought he's the pack rat from John Stern. These guys are playing the rat mirror.
Okay, so mono black fight here. Paul's currently ranked 16th on the top 25 pro rankings, and John bringing up the caboose there at number 25. But it's, you know, both players on the top 25 is a big deal here. And there it is, turn 2 pack rat. And a pack rat fight we have as John's found a second one. And let's see what Paul can do about that. He's got an opening here to potentially devour flesh his opponent's pack rat or just start making his own to get ahead.
Paul really likes playing this matchup.
Looks like he's just going to offer the trade here. Does not play a land first, so there's no rat to be made here. This is interesting. John's in the tank. He looks a little bit like, what?
He's like, okay, I'll take it.
All right, and he'll take the trade, and Paul trades off his pack rat.
Second main phase temple. That's kind of nice, you know, slow it down. Like, maybe give John, you know, not any information about what might be going on.
And he's going to ship that card to the bottom and ship the turn back with it.
Remember, Paul has looked at John's hand.
He has, yeah.
So,
yeah, Paul's working with a lot of information that unfortunately we don't have at the moment. And there's a turn 3 underworld connections. Won't be activated this turn, but getting it online as quick as possible is a big deal in this matchup. And right on time, there's an underworld connections off the top for Paul Rietzl, but he's going to start it off with a card that he actually gets to use sooner than later, a Nightveil Spectre.
And he can play every card he might hit off of Stern's deck.
Yeah, he can. That's right. Yeah, that's just straight up draw a card. All right, so John Stern has already drawn his card for the turn, has not activated his underworld connections, has not played a land. He's going to kick it off with connections here.
Is this Devour Flesh?
It's another pack rat. So third pack rat of the game here for John Stern. And Paul's going to attack with his Nightveil Spectre. Let's see what he reveals. Ooh, an Underworld Connections. He's already got one in his hand, but not too bad. Unfortunately, I think he really just wanted to hit a land here.
Yes, I think he did.
Don't believe that he's drawn one for the turn and missed it last turn, so he's in danger.
He does have a land.
Oh, he does have his land?
Yeah,
okay, great. And he's going to take care of pack rat before John Stern has the ability to start making copies. 3 pack rats in the graveyard for John Stern. Keeping his cards a little close, though. I think he drew a Thoughtseize here, potentially.
And more pack rats, okay, more and you're in trouble.
Draws a Hero's Downfall, so he can turn off Nightveil Spectre and make sure that Paul doesn't get that free Underworld Connections off of it, too, if he wants. Seems like a pretty solid play here if that's what he wants to do. There it goes. Connections is exiled still. And is there going to be a land? No, no land there for John Stern, so he's got all action from here on out. Paul draws a swamp for his turn, so he's going to keep hitting his land drops, but I think he's going to play connections here. And then draw his card for the turn. So after the dust settles and everything, there's a bunch of pack rats in the graveyards, but really both players are sitting on 4 lands and a connection. There's a Mutavault now for Paul Rietzl, so he's slightly ahead here.
I'm looking to see if there's any key differences in their decks. It's going to let one of these players get some sort of edge on the other.
I was talking to KYT about that. He's playing this deck, and he said stage 1 is pack rat. If somebody sticks a pack rat and goes off with it, then that'll be it. If that doesn't happen, then it's whoever gets a connections first that is ahead. And there's a Thoughtseize that John had drawn last turn, and he sees Gray Merchant, Hero's Downfall, and another swamp. So Gray Merchant represents a bit of a life swing here. He's going to take it. Remember, there's an Underworld Connection sitting under that swamp too to add to Devotion. So
yeah, I think the card that Stern might have that is a difference maker is Whip of Erebos.
Does he have a whip?
Yeah, he does have a whip.
Okay, that can do it for sure. Keep drawing cards. We're going to see Underworld Connections activated on either side basically every turn for the rest of the game here. another Underworld Connections for Rietzl, so he has the option of kind of going off here.
So if the first Underworld connection to the game is good, the third one of the game has to be better.
It has to be insane. He's going to draw a card right now. He hits a Desecration Demon, plays a Mutavault, and ships a turn back. So still both players are kind of jockeying for position here. They're not in a situation yet where they're able to apply pressure, but there's implied pressure from those Underworld Connections on really both sides. Problem, of course, being that neither deck really has tools to deal with Underworld Connections. Those are just going to stick there. Yeah.
Right. We saw last round, we saw a black-green kind of version of the stack that had like, you know, multiple ways to do it.
Yeah, Abrupt Decay and Golgarichon both did it. He even had a Ratchet Bomb that could at some point, but this mainstream version of the mono black deck does not. And we're going to see a demon here. There it is, Desecration Demon for John Stern. So he makes the first aggressive action here. But he's facing down double Underworld Connections, and Paul Rietzl, sitting on 15 life, has plenty of room to work with currently. He's going to need to get rid of the demon eventually.
Rietzl has the Hero's Downfall. Because he had thought seized. Yeah, he thought seized, and he had to take the Grey Merchant.
Right. Right you are. But I guess he figures out I got to make him use it here. Well, there's a Scry land, so Paul can scry first before drawing his card off Connections if he'd like. Kind of depends on what he has lined up for this turn. He can also...
How many of these decks do you think we're going to see at the end of the day tomorrow?
I still think we're going to see quite a few. I think this card's still really, or this deck's still really good. And he hits a Swamp. He already had one in his hand though. And there's the Hero's Downfall, and it looks
he wants to get in with that Mutavault.
Yep. These are important. These little hits here and there are quite important when it's an Underworld Connections race. Yeah. And you know, Stern wants to keep activating Connections over and over and over again, and that's just going to slowly tick those down.
He just drew another Underworld Connection, so there's both players ripping through their deck 3 cards a turn.
Yeah. But it's getting a little awkward here for John. I mean, if he wants to start using up his turn to play another Connections and start activating those, I mean, Rietzl's got double Mutavault, and we're talking about with 2 Underworld Connections.
You chain like two Grey Merchants.
Yeah, I'm more worried if I'm John Stern about Paul doing that, right? Hit you with both Mutavaults. Next turn, play a couple of, like hit you again and then play a Merchant, and that'd about do it. There's a Desecration Demon for John Stern, ships turn back. Paul Rietzl draws with a snap, and he finds another Mutavault there.
So right now, a Grey Merchant would be a swing of 6 life.
Yeah, severely limiting John Stern's options with that Underworld
Put him at a
Connections
virtual
as well.
3.
Right.
You know, if he used his. Yep. We see a demon from Paul in Paul's hand.
And he draws a Farika's Cure, which doesn't kill much, but it does kill a Mutavault here.
Right, and if he has like a Devour Flash, and then he activates Mutavault in response, and then you know, cure the Mutavault.
Sure, if you can just get rid of the demon, and then John wants to try to trade a Mutavault for Paul's Mutavault, he can take care of it. Could be relevant in a little while.
Or you get all sorts of interesting demon on the stack triggers. You want to activate your Mutavault and before that trigger.
That trigger goes on the stack every turn, no matter what. It just appears at the beginning of combat. You can respond to it. It's like Rietzl's in the tank here. He's drawn 1 card off Connections, and now is really just trying to figure out what it is that he wants to do here. I think he's going to make his move. Nope. All right, it is now the math section. All right. Night Veil Spectre, land, and his own demon.
From my attack. Mine's on the stack, yours on the stack. I'm not going to stack to yours.
Well, they're both like trigger, trigger.
Trigger, trigger, no stacking, no sacking. Okay.
Yep.
Stern is going to go to 9.
Still going to use it. He's going to go to 9, but he's in a tough spot here because Rietzl's got lethal thanks to that Farika's cure. So Stern's going to have to come up with, he's going to have to change this board state pretty significantly to survive next
Yeah,
turn.
you got multiple mutavolts.
Yeah.
Well, Paul can even just take a hit here.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got to worry about it a little bit. he can't really. I guess then he's a gray merchant away from being dead, but.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, interestingly, Paul Rietzl also has lethal with just a gray merchant on his turn, just kills John.
By quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, he does 11. So John's really, really up against it here. I mean, he's facing lethal on board and the potential of lethal in hand with any gray merchants from Paul. And John's, just surviving these next couple of turns is going to be really tough for him. He's also going to try to find a way to win this game at some point in there, too. You can see why he's taking so long to think this through. It's a big turn for him.
5 mana. Here comes a gray merchant.
At least try to get that life total out of gray merchant only range.
Yes.
There it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So up to 15 for John Stern, and that's half of Paul Rietzl's life total. Gray merchant swings are big, big, big.
There's a mutavault.
The second mutavault, that's interesting. That one can block, get sacked, all that types of stuff. So trigger for Desecration Demon.
He's like, okay, trigger for my Desecration Demon.
Uh-huh. And it looks like John might actually tap down and force Paul Rietzl to chump block with Night Veil Spectre here. Interesting. This is a lethal attack here with the Desecration Demon from John Stern, so Night Veil Spectre is going to be obligated to jump in front. So John's maneuvered himself into a position where at least he's not just dead to a gray merchant or something along those lines. But he's not in a super comfortable position either. All right, let's see if Paul has the necessary tools to finish this game off. He's got his opponent nearly tapped out, just one untapped land. It does have a connection zone.
It's okay. Put them on the stack, going to combat. Yeah. Okay, I'm not going to sack anything to yours.
All right, he says, I'm going to go to combat, but I'm not going to sack anything.
Okay, hold on, sir.
Oh, and this the Farika's cure trigger we were talking about.
Just as you described it earlier, BDM, he was going to try to sack his mutavault to get rid to tap
and
down.
now he sacrifices his gray merchant.
Yeah, he wants to save that big hit. He knows that if he takes a hit from Desecration Demon and then gets gray merchant in, that'd be it.
Paul goes up to 8 here.
How many cards are you man? It's still before attackers.
He's going to draw a card.
Down to 7. Find a Devour Flesh there.
It looks like that's what it looks like.
Interesting pickup. I mean, getting rid of Desecration Demon is a relief, but it's a bunch of life gain for John Stern too.
He could target himself.
Yeah, he totally could. Gain 9. I mean, with 2 Underworld connections, it's probably worth thinking about. You know, if he gets out of range and can mitigate that demon, I mean, he's going to outdraw his opponent over the long term here by a lot.
Activating Immutavault here.
6.
Yep.
Immutavault battles.
What do I have? What's in store for me? What does my future look like?
He's still got a connections that's unused this turn, so if he finds something he wants immediately,
Future
he
is still
could.
unknown.
But he didn't. Yep. All right, John Stern gets an untap here. He's got to be happy about that. In fact, he's ahead on life total. They're a little behind on board. What's it going to take to get John Stern out of this? Can he just win this turn? Can he just do something insane and just win?
So he could.
Gray Merchant would be for 6, which is why Paul hasn't activated his Underworld connections. Paul also has a couple of Mutavaults he can sack to keep that demon flying away.
He attacks.
Devour Flesh.
I mean, he just bought himself a couple turns here, right?
Absolutely.
Though he still needs some answer for Paul's demon. Now, if Paul taps his Underworld Connections Swamp, there is a Devour Flesh in John Stern's hand.
Yes.
Okay.
But he needs Paul to tap that land and not be able to activate Immutavault in response. All right, Stern, who went up to 19, draws a card.
Yep.
Scries. Paul does activate his Underworld Connections.
Yeah, now that the coast is clear, the cards matter a lot more than his life.
Now you get to Devour Flesh that demon. Do you do it? No. Interesting. Pretty sure that's the card that's in his hand. Stern is just going to take 12 here?
10, 12. I mean, he's going to take a beating. Yeah, 12. Yikes. Draw a card.
Okay.
He's got to be careful now. He's got to play around Gray Merchant still. He's at 5, but going to 4 is a much bigger deal. Attack, and here's Hero's Downfall.
It was Hero's Downfall.
Right.
Okay. Not Devour Flesh.
Still 4 damage from the Mutavaults. They add up quickly.
That's right. Yep.
Paul would love to see a Gray Merchant here. Any life gain equals cards at this point for Paul Rietzl, and in this matchup, it's all about cards. Paul really thinks about whether to scry this to the bottom. It looked like he had convinced himself to, but he's trying to decide. I don't know what card it is. Bottom it goes.
I guess if you have to think about it that long, you should just push it.
Probably. Yeah, so you see he does not use his connections this time. Again, he's playing around Gray Merchant of Asphodel. If he goes down to 4 and his opponent just plays a merchant, he just dies. And that's just unacceptable. No more Mutavaults for John Stern.
So that card in John's hand was a Devour Flesh earlier. He had just opted to use the Hero's Downfall instead.
Oh, okay.
So he could still do it here while Rietzl's tapped out, but that would give Rietzl, enough card draws to maybe climb his way out of this.
Yeah, it's just the installment plan, but it's still a lot of cards. The pace of play has slowed significantly here. These guys have some really tough decisions, and they're making sure to take their time to go through them.
This looks like he's just. I can't fool around here.
Yeah, just he'd like to try to find a way to finish off Paul while Paul's down to 5 life here, but it's not going to happen, and that demon's going to make short work of him, so he's got to take care of it. Yep. And what's his follow-up? A demon of his own. All right.
Yeah.
But now Paul has a new lease on life, sitting at 11. He can start using those connections a little more aggressively, although he immediately draws Hero's Downfall.
It's like, why, thank you for these lovely cards.
Yeah. Finds Night Veil Spectre as well, so he can put out a threat plus more card draw and kill his opponent's threat if he wants. Can also just bash him with the Mutavaults and play some stuff. He's got a lot of great options now. You see Paul now happily using both connections. Yeah.
Paul starts doing that counting up motion. Thing, that's never good for you.
That's not good.
The Mutavault activates Mutavault. Leaves him 3 black mana to play Night Veil Spectre.
And another Mutavault. So Paul Rietzl jockeying here, but looking to be in a good shape. John Stern, though, has definitely given him a run. But the second Underworld Connections is nasty.
You don't have to gain life to draw cards. All you Supreme Verdict fans.
Yeah, that's true.
You do it the way we used to do it. We used to pay life to draw cards.
Different color.
Yeah.
That's how it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
I'm sure Randy's nodding somewhere over here in agreement with you.
Randy, who owns the original artwork to Necropotence.
Does he?
Yes.
I know that's his favorite. Artwork is sweet too. All right, Thoughtseize here from John Stern reveals the 4th Mutavault.
Like, bolt you.
Yeah, and nothing else. So you take 2 and discard a card.
See another Underworld Connections here.
Yes, indeed.
I mean, Grey Merchant's just lethal at any point now, right?
On Paul's side?
Yeah.
That's right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Dead.
Sorry, we'll do one at a time. Okay.
But so is attacking with all my things. It's also not good for you.
There is one Mutavault there for John Stern, but it's a lot of attackers.
And it's going to just pressure how many cards he can see between now and his next turn, even if he doesn't die here.
Ladies and gentlemen, silence for a time spiral block booster draft.
I don't know. I think I got to go.
You just heard a booster draft.
Time
being called?
spiral block booster draft.
Oh, goodness. All right, Mutavault's going to jump in front of the other Mutavault.
No effect. 603, trigger the nothing.
These guys are being incredibly methodical at this point. And there's the Great Merchant. And there is no risk to that one, and that's going to do it. Paul Rietzl up a game over John Stern.
A very, very long game one. See Paul Rietzl craning his neck to get a look at the clock.
Yeah, they were playing kind of slow a little bit there, and
I mean, it's just a complex game.
Yeah, I don't blame either of them.
What did our clock
It just
have?
took a while to get that one finally finished, but
Taking a look at their
See how it
sideboards,
goes
trying to
after.
see if there's any major differences. I know Paul has liked Erebos, God of the Dead, in this matchup to sort of prevent his opponents
Wild. Neither of us were drawing.
from gaining life.
yeah.
They both have that option.
Plus, nobody knows that that's what that card does either. Yeah. You just get them.
There you get a look at Paul Rietzl, the Pro Tour Amsterdam champion, two-time Grand Prix champion.
Yeah. Paul's had some insane streaks since I started doing coverage a couple of years ago. He's put together some of the most impressive runs.
I mean, the thing about Paul, there you get a look at John Stern. I mean, the thing about Paul is he's always seems to be in contention.
Yeah, he does.
You know, he
Even
always
if
seems
all
to
tournament you haven't heard about him.
Yeah.
And then it's like, wait,
be, like
what?
last round feature matches.
Yeah.
Play, you know.
Paul Rietzl playing for top 8. It's
Yeah.
like, what? And of course, we learned that in Albuquerque, that even though he didn't actually, he got conceded to and still made it in.
There you get a look at John Stern.
There's John Stern for you. Really a Grand Prix specialist at this point as well. I mean, a first and a second within the course of the last year.
He's got a Pro Tour 9th. He was, I think, 9th place.
Ninth?
I think he was 9th place at Pro Tour Gate Crash, or certainly,
okay.
certainly in that, certainly right in there. Maybe it might have been 10th. But
Maybe he's just a Magic specialist then.
Yeah. Someone who's been playing the game for a while.
He was on the Canadian national team, right, in Amsterdam? I think he was.
Yes. That sounds correct.
Yeah.
And I think he may have even been on a previous incarnation of a Canadian national team.
Is that right?
Yeah.
At Worlds, at Old Worlds? You see Eric Froelich behind Paul Rietzl there. That's what Eric looks like when he plays. He's not going to give you anything.
He's not napping?
He might be. No, he's up. He's up.
Okay.
We're good.
I'm just resting my eyes.
Yeah. Tell me when it's my turn. I am curious to see what Eric Froelich is playing this week. He's played some pretty sweet stuff over the last few GPs, constructed GPs. He had red, white, blue control. We had a deck with him in Albuquerque for that. That was a fun one.
Just other players in the feature match area right now, maybe getting some text coverage. Owen Turtenwald's playing against Nick Delaney, and Brian Kibler is playing against Ryan Bemrose. And this matchup in the back table is Eric Froelich, as we've said, on the left, and he's playing against Isaac Tang on your right.
Okay.
So we've got our mono black devotion mirror here up front. That's our mono blue devotion mirror back there. So we figured no matter who wins first, one of these matches will still be playing, and we'll be able to cut to them.
So are we thinking, I mean, look, we've had some GPs where this has been the story.
Yeah.
Blue and black.
Sure.
Are we going to be black and blue by the end of the weekend after having seen these decks so much?
I got to tell you, I feel like there's a lot of...
The metagame has to react to these things, right?
Sure. I mean, this is the last week that Standard looks like this.
Right.
So there's certainly an incentive for some players to bring what they deem the best deck, right? You know, they're like, this is the known deck. I can work this. I've been playing it all season. I know it inside and out.
Right.
But in these weeks, there's usually an opportunity to find a real window to. So we're going to show you this Agent of Fate deck later. You know, the Agent of Fate deck seems to be really well positioned against both the blue and the black decks.
Okay.
We've seen a lot of green-white decks and Naya decks, and we've seen multiple Boros decks last week. But let's go back to our mono black.
Sure. So there's a temple here for John Stern, and he's tanked out on whether to scry this. So very deliberate play here.
We're going to just have a new rule. It's like 30 seconds, then you automatically push it to the bottom.
I like that.
If you take 30 seconds, just push it.
And Thoughtseize turn 1 from Paul Rietzl. And this is not an amazing hand, especially after Thoughtseize. It's just going to be left with the Devour Flush after Underworld Connections hits the bin. Pretty rough start here. A swamp off the top for John Stern says he's not going anywhere. The question is, can Paul turn to Pack Rat him here?
I think
he's got multiple Thoughtseizes, and he's just going to end up taking the Devour Flush. He's going to play it. It does still resolve, and Paul does still lose 2 life here, though. And boom, Night Veil Spectre off the top for John
Just
Stern.
like we drew it up.
Right on time. But Rietzl has a Devour Flush. Is Rietzl hitting his land, though?
I think he
no.
Probably.
Oh, he said he's not done. He does
he's
have
got a scry land.
John got a little excited.
Oh.
Go. That is a Dark Betrayal in Paul Rietzl's hand, and he's got a Night Veil Spectre. John Stern on lands. John Stern on his card hasn't decided what he wants to do, but all right, just a Bear Gray Merchant limited style there.
Yeah.
Drain you for 2. That's got to just be miserable, but he just doesn't feel like he has much of another play, I don't think. Erebos off the top for Paul Rietzl.
Well timed, Gray Merchant, because that might be the last life he gains this game.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, attack you for 2, and I'll take one of your swamps while I'm in there.
Slam that into play.
Yeah. He's going to Thoughtseize, reveal the swamp that Paul probably assumed is that.
Paul's down to 12, mostly from Thoughtseizes.
Yep. Yep. 6 of it's from Thoughtseizes, and 2 of it's from the Gray Merchant there. Gray Merchant does get to battle here.
Erebos not quite alive yet.
One more pip, he's there.
Yeah. He's a distant, remote god at the moment.
Yeah, but you could kind of hear him.
But he's got his hand cupped to his ear. He's like, can I get a little devotion here?
Yeah. 1 follower away from making a big appearance here.
Need you to dig deep.
Yeah. Think that was a Pack Rat for Paul Rietzl, which would do it as far as getting Erebos active. Looks like Paul's thinking about using his Devour Flesh here. He's going to draw a card first, though, and drop himself down to 8 life. And he drew a Mutavault. Attack you with Night Veil Spectre, and Dark Betrayal from the top of the deck for John Stern is going to take care of that. So there's stemming the bleeding a little bit. It takes a huge toll on Paul Rietzl's devotion count. And Paul, I can't be super thrilled about that turn. Just has to use a Devour Flesh and chip. No Underworld Connections for either player yet. Draw a card. Go down to 6. This is after John Stern drew his card and immediately shipped the turn back. And there's an Underworld Connections and another one. So it looks like I spoke a little too soon.
I play 2 of them in attack.
Yeah, that would be fine. John Stern's sitting in a comfy 23, but he is definitely in danger of, with no board presence at all, that life total can plummet quite quickly. Duress you just to make sure, double land. Not going to be a better time to do that for Paul, so he fires it off. Connections, draw a card, go down to 5.
Wow.
So this is he's getting low here. And there's a Mutavault. Entering the red zone. But still 2 more black mana symbols to get Erebos active. He's got those in his hand. So next turn it could get ugly. But Paul's at 5. John doesn't have that much work to do here, and he's got a flyer now. This could get interesting.
This game doesn't feel like it's this close.
No.
The way like John's hand has played out,
and
but
like, how many spells Paul's played?
yeah, Paul's done, a lot of damage. He's done it. He's done what, 10 to himself?
At least. He has an Erebos, 3, so that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Yeah, he's done like 10.
But still seems to be very much in control.
He does. Again, cards
Okay.
are what the important thing
Here
is.
comes a devoted god.
Erebos, yep. Hits you for 7, 1/3 of your current life total.
Which will not be increasing.
Correct. Duress you.
See a Thoughtseize that I was not going to cast.
I wasn't going to cast that one anyway. Yeah, when you're this far behind, those hand destruction spells are pretty miserable.
Will Paul draw?
Is there even a way for John Stern to get out of this at this point? Like, drawing his own Underworld connections doesn't seem like it's going to get him there. Is it just like Merchant?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, Merchant will do it.
Or actually Underworld connections into Merchant? I can't cast both.
Activates 4 Mutavaults.
Wow. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 puts you to 1.
Wow.
And a lowly Pack Rat off the top of the deck doesn't get it done for John Stern.